in the church. As well, I want to thank the church for the privilege, for the opportunity to share with you a little bit this evening. This week, the Central Uganda Conference has organized the Health Emphasis Week. And the theme, as you might know, is health and technology. I am sorry, friends, I may have jumped off. Am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Where did I lose you? Where did you lose me? Where had I stopped?
So,
So Nora, I didn't hear that. Can you say that again? Okay, so I hadn't said much. Just to say, this week is a health emphasis week, as organized by CUC, with the theme being health and technology. I hope you can hear me. Please confirm that you can hear me. Are you able to hear me, colleagues?
Loud and clear.
Excellent. Good. So this image that we're seeing here on the screen is an image that I obtained from the materials that CUC kindly prepared. And it shows, the upper image shows a gentleman lying on his couch with headphones and many other things, that wires and the gadgets that are all over the place. I see a tablet, I see a computer. I even see an iPod from many years ago and a console for gaming. The image below shows even more options for technology, Facebook, tablets, phones, a whole series of things that indicates especially the technology that we're using currently, that is phone-based, computer-based, internet-based, and gadget-based. But also just remind ourselves that technology has been around for some time. We started in the Stone Age, if you see the image at the bottom there, with tools that helped us to hunt, tools that helped us to create fires, to skin animals, and to do the tasks that we needed to do at the time. There's even an era where we used to use a shadoof for irrigation. Actually, in some places, that technology has not yet been put to good use. Shadoof, we are still, missing out on the opportunities of irrigation that we could have and have a productive farming. Technology is useful. We are on a Zoom meeting this evening. It's turning out to be very, very useful for us to be able to communicate and share ideas. We even hold worship services on Zoom. And on your extreme right there is Starlink, which is Elon Musk's internet connection. one or two people on this Zoom might actually be using Starlink. So technology, just to say that it's been around for some time in various forms currently, and for purposes of this evening's topic, we are going to focus a lot on the technology in form of internet, phones, and computers. And this is day 4 of this Health Week's emphasis. The title that was provided was Recovery from Phone Addiction. I modified that a little bit to call it Recovery from Problematic Use of the Smartphone. The key text for consideration for this evening comes from 1 Corinthians, that is 1 Corinthians. It's not there in the text, but just know that this is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. It says that I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. This text is reminding us that we are in charge of our lives and we're in charge of our choices, including the choices that come to us these days from technology. And so, borrowing from the usefulness of that verse, let us be careful to make the choices that are going to be helpful for us, healthy for us, as well as helpful in terms of utilizing these tools that God has put to us for us to use them well and benefit from them. So as we go through this evening's learning, I would like for us to consider the question that is at the bottom of the slide, which says, what practical steps can you take today to reduce your dependency on the smartphone or the computer? That question is, I suspect, useful for many of us and applicable to many of us. So please do consider it. And if you feel that it is not for you personally, then think about somebody for whom you might be of assistance. So phones are important to us. Today, the phone is an essential component of life. When you wake up in the morning, it's probably because your alarm woke you up. You get news from your phone before you leave home. You might call an Uber or a safe border using your phone. Might figure out which traffic route to take on the basis of what your phone is telling you. A lot of what we do is based on phones, including the Zooms that we are on currently. So phones are actually very useful. We need them. They help us in business, earning an income. There are some people whose income is solely based on use of the phone, particularly the smartphone, which is our consideration is on the smartphone. However, as this quote says from Selected Messages, Volume 2, page 88, Satan is ever seeking to introduce spurious material into the work of the Lord, in order that he may mar the testimony and bring discredit upon the truth. He would mingle with it an element that would be a stumbling block in the pathway of God's people. So whereas the phone is useful, using it for Zoom tonight, in the computer, we're using it for Zoom tonight, we use them to study the Bible. We have Bibles on our phones, hymnals on our phones, lesson quarterlies, and all sorts of useful, beautiful resources. We use all these devices for evangelism, but we need to watch because the devil is also not sleeping and is ever seeking to introduce obstacles, introduce poison in the things that would otherwise have been useful and good for us. Just to mention that as of 2022, in Uganda, in this country, we had 12 million registered smartphones. That is about what? About a third of the entire population. But if you had to put it at the adult population, that is a half of the adult population. It's quite a wide coverage of phone use, and it raises sharply. This is 2 years since then, and I'm sure it has raised by another 3 million, give or take. So there's quite a fair amount of phone coverage. And if we were to focus in the population where we are, in a church like Emmaus, I'm sure phone coverage is smartphone coverage is something in the order of 100, might even exceed 100, because I see some people with 2 smartphones, even 3. So some people have been doing research to see how much we have in terms of problematic phone use. One of the studies that has come out of the universities here in Uganda has shown that 46% among the university students in that survey had the risk of problematic phone use, smartphone use. This estimate is actually slightly lower than what other countries have published. Elsewhere, problematic use of a smartphone is in excess of 60%. So there's a big problem that is brewing. And there are ways of measuring it, some of which we'll mention as we progress in this study, in this learning. That if we are to use that same statistic, I'm not sure how many there are of us here on this Zoom tonight, but about 1 out of 2 of us, going by this statistic, is likely to have a problematic use of a smartphone. And global data indicate that over the last 10 years, people have received 427% more messages and notifications. If you owned a smartphone 10 years ago, the messages that you've received have increased by that percent. And you are also not entirely innocent. You've sent nearly 300% more messages than you did 10 years ago. So we are busy. The smartphones are keeping us busy, they're keeping us engaged. They are not innocent. I just wanted to mention to us, so that we have perspective, appreciate what addiction is. Addiction involves compulsive seeking and taking of a substance or performing of an activity. So in this case, in terms of phone use, phone abuse, phone addiction, problematic use of the phone, we're talking about an activity. So in this case, addiction would be phone use despite negative compulsive seeking and taking of and use of the phone despite negative and harmful consequences, a few of which were mentioned over the last few days as this health week progressed. So the most common addiction that we have is for alcohol. There are other addictions, gambling, internet use, which may be via the phone or the computer, eating, even good things such as dieting and exercising also have addictions, and there are even addictions for things like shopping. So there's a whole range of things that people can get addicted to. So that being the case, since our focus this evening is on smartphone use, I would like us to pause for a moment and ask ourselves, each of us as an individual, do I have a problem with the use of the phone? Do I have a problematic use of my smartphone? There are some telltale signs, the kinds of things that you might want to question your own self and see whether you have them, and answer that question for yourself. So people who have problematic use of their smartphones find that they use more and more time, will spend more and more time on the phone. There's also this thing called fear of missing out. You don't want to find yourself behind what has been happening, so you keep checking and scrolling through your phone to keep yourself up to date. You even check other people's profiles repeatedly due to anxiety. And when these things are happening, people around us are observing. So they may mention to you, your loved ones may mention to you, they mention to us that I'm a bit concerned with your phone use. Problematic phone use also may result into neglect or trouble completing duties at work, at school, or at home. At school for younger people who are still in school, or in all the levels of school. There may be a history of accidents or injury due to phone use, working later to complete tasks because one is distracted by the phone, weak or non-existent social life because that the energy, the time, the engagement for social life is being outcompeted by the phone, and lying about smartphone use, trying to justify why you are using the phone, lying that you are not using the phone, yet you are. All those are telltale signs of problematic use. The smartphone overuse may also result into isolation from loved ones and a feeling of lack of connection. If somebody finds that they are easily irritated if the phone is interrupted, or angry if the phone is interrupted, that is also something to watch out for. It is not uncommon for people to get up at night to check on the phone. WhatsApp in our environment is a big culprit that makes us wake up in the night, or if you have a reason to wake up in the night, you also pass by the phone, check on it. Also, it is not uncommon to reach for the phone the moment one is bored or the moment one is alone. Actually, one may not even be bored or alone, but find themselves engaged by the phone. Sometimes you hear a phone vibrating in your pocket or wherever it is when it actually isn't vibrating. That is also a telltale sign called phantom vibrations. Also struggling to limit phone use is another telltale sign, something to watch out for. And craving access to a smartphone or another device. All those are things that each of us as an individual need to reflect upon and ask ourselves, do I have any of these? One or two of these does not assign you to be a problematic smartphone user or an addict, but maybe it is a flag for you to think carefully, how often, how frequently am I using the smartphone? How much of my time and effort and concentration and focus is it taking from me? So things to watch out for. And if you find that you're concerned about your use of a smartphone, it is time to act. It's time to act and consider finding solutions. When we read from Ephesians 5:15 to 16, it says, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil." This portion of scripture is urging us to be purposeful about how we live. Generally speaking, I think it would be safe to say that we are wise. We are children of God. We've been granted the opportunity to know many things. But it is important for us to apply that wisdom to make good choices. And the scripture is urging us here to make the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Making most of every opportunity in this case also includes finding solutions if you find yourself in a situation where your phone use is problematic. So there are a few proposals for consideration. The first one is what we've been attempting to do. It is a self-audit. You could consider that list above to see where you lie with regards to the extent to which you're using the phone. But there are also, validated tests that are available, including the smartphone application-based addiction scale, which is available on the internet. There are others, and it's worth considering a self-assessment, a self-audit to see where do I lie. Often you may find that you actually don't even need to do that assessment. A professional may be able to do it, but you'll know that you have a problem using the phone, even from the list that we shared just a bit earlier. So having done a self-audit, it's important to consider lifestyle changes. There's quite a few that are proposed here. The first one is reducing phone use. If you're like me, you have considered many options of reducing phone use. There's even a time I bought a cartouche and I struggled with the buttons of the cartouche until I defaulted and went back to smartphone. And then still have to consider other options, how to reduce phone use. So the proposals that are here, including setting personal screen time limits. You might want to say that after 9 o'clock, after 8 o'clock p.m., I will not use my smartphone. There are also limits that you could set within the phone itself. It has options of setting limits of screen time. So for example, my phone at 9 o'clock will turn gray. The screen turns gray and becomes unattractive and palatable. Of course, you have to have the discipline to let it remain gray, and to let it, be unattractive to you, because you are the one who turned on that option. So you have to have the discipline to leave it turned on and not turn it off. Other considerations include removing addictive applications, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp. I know that a few people have stopped using WhatsApp, have gone on a WhatsApp break, and have found it helpful. Sometimes it's not addiction per se, sometimes it's, finding that WhatsApp is taking up your time or one's time. It's competing with other things that one must do. So that is also a consideration, removing addictive apps from your phone. And the apps that are on your phone. Most phones these days are able, most smartphones are able to tell you, firstly, how much time you're using the phone. Secondly, what is engaging you most on the phone. Interestingly, the phone originally was supposed to make and receive telephone calls. These days, it does a whole host of things. The phone is a TV, a phone is a radio, a phone is all sorts of things. But it's possible to remove the apps that are problematic to you. The second lifestyle change, potential lifestyle change, is to create or to reinforce healthy habits. So, for example, you may choose to charge your phone outside of your bedroom. This assumes, of course, that you have a bedroom that is separate from the rest of your house. If you're a university student, your bedroom is also your sitting room. Your bedroom is your entire home. But there may be other innovative ways to charge your phone away from where you're sleeping. The other proposal in terms of creating or reinforcing healthy habits is exercise. Exercise is an interesting lifestyle change. It helps us in a lot of things. So with regards to the phone, it will give you a phone break, actually. If you're doing exercise, if you're walking, if you're jogging, if you're doing aerobics, if you're lifting weights, whatever exercise it is that you're doing, it is unlikely that you'll also be engaging on your phone. And if you're exercising for a good 45 minutes or an hour, that is a good break for that entire period of time. So that is something also to consider. Another proposal is to have areas in your home that you consider no phone areas. These days, we go to the bathrooms with our phones. You could choose to assign to not go to the bathroom with your phone. The bathroom is a no phone area, and others. We each have different ways in which we live, but you find the most appropriate. The principle is to assign an area in the house, the home, that you say this is a no phone area. The third potential lifestyle change is to implement a digital detox. This is harsh for many of us and may not be practical for some of us, depending on at what stage of life or circumstances of life you're in. But a digital detox may include stopping the use of a smartphone entirely. If you're able to do that, please do so. Come back when you're organized to use the smartphone in a manner that is helpful for you and that is not detrimental to you. Proposal number 4 is to seek accountability and support. Many of the things that we do in life, we do them because we've been assisted and helped by others, because we've been encouraged, because our hand has been held. So it's a good idea to seek accountability and support from trusted friends or members of society. Share with them what your plan is. You want to manage the way you're dealing with the phone, and discuss and map out a way in which they can support you. If you're frequently meeting with them, they may remind you, oh, this is time to take a break from the phone and just engage with us, and let's have a healthy conversation. And the final proposal, lifestyle change proposal, it's being listed as the last, but it's certainly not the least. And it runs through whatever else that you do when you're trying to manage one's lifestyle change. And that is prayer and meditation. prayer helps us in everything that we do. And it's important to have a daily routine and to pray for strength and deliverance from the Almighty God, because He is the giver of all good things, and our success comes and depends only from Him. So that is something to keep with oneself always. So just to recap, we are looking at, once you have identified that you have problematic phone use, what do you do? The first one we said, you do a self-audit. The second one, you do some lifestyle changes. And thirdly, is to seek professional help. Lifestyle changes are really self-help, they're personal. But in the event that you feel that these may not be helpful, or you have tried them and they haven't helped, it may be important that one seeks professional help to overcome this problematic phone use, which may be at the level of an addiction. And the professionals will evaluate you. These professionals that are appropriate for this are usually psychologists, counseling psychologists, counselors, people who are qualified with credentials in psychology health. They may work with others, psychiatrists, if it is needed. And they have, techniques and skills that may be helpful in one overcoming problematic phone use. So I would like for us to conclude this evening by proposing a call to action. I challenge you, I challenge myself, I challenge all of us to reflect on our technology use over the next few days, over the next week, even if it means so. That is a self-assessment. It means that you will be in a position to say, where am I? Am I at a situation where I have problematic phone use? If so, what is it that I can do to overcome that situation? If I am not at a level where I could categorize myself as having problematic phone use, praise be to God. It's important that I keep it that way. It's important that I be on the watch, on the lookout, to use the phone as I ought to use. The second call to action that I'd like to invite us all to engage in, I encourage all of us to establish healthy digital boundaries and prioritize our spiritual and family relationships. So that is the second one. Some of the things that we talked about as lifestyle changes may be helpful to us even if we are not having problematic phone use. And we may, flip in and out of problematic phone use, even though you may not be in that situation currently. So some of those lifestyle changes that we have proposed, and there are others, the list is certainly not exhaustive, are likely to be helpful in helping us establish healthy digital boundaries and prioritizing our spiritual and family relationships. I would like us to consider 1 Corinthians 10:13, which says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with temptation will also make the way of escape, that you may be able to bear it. That is a very clear verse, that whatever it is that is challenging us, is not out of the ordinary. And that's not enough. God has made a way that when we are tempted, when we are tested, he has also made a way for us to overcome, to escape that situation, or to be able to bear it. So let us claim the promise that is in that verse and embrace it in our lives. And as we conclude, I'd like to acknowledge the CUC Health Ministries Director, Pastor Joseph Namgera, who prepared materials that we have adapted for use in this talk. May God bless you. So we have really come to the end of this learning this evening. And I'll hand it over